Good evening, San Bernardino. Thank you guys so much for coming to a live where we can discuss the agenda review. And then I received some public records that I want to share with you and just kind of talk about some stuff that's going on with the meeting. So not all in that order, I'm going to go a little bit different because I want to explain it as much as I can without jumping all over the place. So I will definitely give this a moment, make sure that we are live and all of you are able to see. Oh, I love this. Okay, cool. So yeah, we have a meeting coming up this Wednesday, and I know many of you were upset. We will get to that portion of it. And but I want to first go into my public records request. I think there's some stuff that I think is interesting that will kind of lead into why I believe, and some of you believe as well, the meetings are becoming special meetings. So, hey, Tim, thank you for joining. Okay, now I know we're live. You can definitely watch this recording again. It's posted to my page. I also posted to Instagram and to my YouTube page. So please feel free to share it as well. So as you guys know, I had gone out to do a public records request, and in that I requested the city manager's calendar. And one of the issues that had been very upsetting for the community was finding out that on January 4th, Juan Figueroa held a business roundtable. And at that meeting, Valdivia was present with a developer and met with the city manager. Fred Charette attended, Theodore Sanchez attended. It was just kind of an awe moment for the community, given how hard we had worked to get rid of Valdivia. Well, in going through the public records request, I found out that the city manager has actually been meeting with Valdivia and had done so just a week or two after the roundtable on January 18th. And here we are. What we know is that Valdivia is absolutely dangerous to the community of the city of San Bernardino in his desire to take money for the purpose of helping other people exploit our community. And now, a year and a half later, he is back at City Hall meeting with a city manager who has his own not good history of fiscal management. And yeah, big red flag. Now, some of you have reached out. I cannot confirm that what Valdivia is out saying. I know some of you are hearing that he said that he is a consultant for our city. I have requested the city manager's contracts, anything that he can sign within his signing authority. Anything above the $100,000 threshold would have to go to the council, which would be made public. So as of right now, there is no public contract between John Valdivia and the city. Anything that isn't disclosed through that, I'm waiting on those records. So just be aware. But yes, Valdivia is back in City Hall, has met with the city manager. It's been reported that the other elected official that is there full time has seen him as well. So I will keep you updated as best I can with this, but it is confirmed. So the next issue is this letter of intent that really has created a firestorm around it regarding the potential bonding of City Hall. And I'm going to go back so that you guys can remember where this came from and then show you where we are. So, hey, Paula, Laureate, thank you guys for coming. So at the January 31st meeting, Charles Montoya announces in a workshop that there is this group called Stifle, and they are going to help him work on a bond for City Hall, for the renovations of City Hall. Upwards of $80 million. Then he went to 74. Either way, this concept had never, ever been discussed. When we have looked at how we would get back into City Hall, coming into a bond issue wasn't where the discussion had led us. So I want to recall what he said. He said, "We have already signed a letter of intent with them," meaning Stifel, "and all the project personnel put on this will go ahead and be reimbursed through the bond proceeds." So we need to start moving ahead. And they're one of the top companies in the United States. If you don't mind me asking, what is that cost? Councilwoman Calvin inquired. "We're still working on that," said Montoya. "It's not a final cost yet. We will know as soon as we know what the bond issuance is and what the market rates are and those types of things. So we don't have a final cost yet, but we will be rolled into the bond proceeds. So we just opened up a contract, but we don't have any idea of the number," Councilwoman Calvin asked. "When you do bond proceeds, this is how the process works. Nationwide," Montoya said. "They've already been identified, though," Calvin pressed. "Yes. So we didn't need an RFP to go out, a request for proposal, to seek bids for that." "No, we did not." So this is all in a special workshop meeting that there cannot be any vote taken. And what Montoya is telling the council for the very first time they are ever hearing this is that he has already entered into a letter of intent with Stifel for the bonding of City Hall. And that the people that are already working on this bonding issuance will be reimbursed. So they're already planning on how they will pay them for their work through this bond. And as Councilwoman Calvin continually presses him, there is no estimate of cost. The last time that we visited any discussion on the potential of renovating City Hall was when Alex Keisha was here, and he's been gone for what, over a year? So, or maybe longer, it could be a year and a half. So there is no updated estimates on any type of renovation cost for the city of San Bernardino, given the fact that we have already seen over a 3% inflation rate coming out of COVID for everything, which they're literally going to talk about in the budget. So crazy. And then all the community is like, where did this come from? Where did this entire conversation of bonding even begin? And we want to see this letter of intent. So we requested it. And the city manager said, this document doesn't exist. This letter of intent that Montoya on the record said he had already signed, he was already in process with Stifel, doesn't exist. So I requested all the communications between Montoya, Susie Soren, and Eddie and Stifel, because I want to know, what are you guys talking about? They responded back to me that the city anticipates it will take months to retrieve information because of a high potential volume of communications for the city manager. I'm like, the guy's only been here since October 31st. How much could he be communicating? And this just hit publicly at the end of January. This thing has never ever been a discussion. How can someone that is a city manager of a city who's never been given a single direction by the policymakers to pursue bonding, enter into a letter of intent to move forward with a potential $80 million bond against the city, and there's no paper trail? Well, found one paper trail. I went through and I requested his calendar, and here's what has been discovered. Montoya's first day at the city of San Bernardino was October 31st. He began discussing bond allocations on November 1st, the day after he got here. He was already reaching out to Stifel. He met with them and discussed on November 1st. He went and they had a discussion. The lady that Mark Reeder and Stifel, November 28th, and they were discussing this on January 9th. And then it became public at the end of January. This has been his plan since the beginning. is a open credit card on behalf of the taxpayers of the city of San Bernardino. Unreal. This, and I want, for those of you that are hearing this and not quite understanding, there is a discussion that says none of this can happen without council approval. Absolutely. The council would have to approve this bond. However, what the city is doing, what Montoya is doing, and right along with the city attorney hearing all of this in real time. I mean, Sonia Carvalho is sitting right there hearing this. We are entering into contracts with businesses to bond out, to prepare all of this stuff. That is going to cost us. I don't support this. I don't support it, one, because where did this come from? And Montoya says that he has all this history. Where? We've done the Google search on him. We have looked into his background. Where maybe we've missed it, where he has gone out and brought a bond on a city and successfully paid it off. I don't know. I can't find that information. But what worries me is $80 million will not even cover the cost, given the estimates that just the economy is supporting today. He projected that there could be a $16 million surplus to look into other infrastructure needs, which is crazy. And we're going to talk about his spending. And then piggyback this on a desire to become the master developer for the downtown redevelopment project. So here's hundreds of thousands of dollars moving around our city. I'm sorry, hundreds of millions of dollars, thousands, millions of dollars potentially moving throughout our city. And the guy that's been fired for fiscal mismanagement is going to be the one in charge of this. The guy that is out here having discussions behind the back of the community and the elected officials who manage him is doing all of this. And one of the issues that were brought forward from the people in Arizona was that this is what he does. He moves money around, and that's when money goes missing. In one of the parks, after he was released from one of his cities in Colorado, the park that they were supposed to be building went over budget. And it was one of the results of why they let him go. It's crazy. And here we are. We're right here. And honestly, Councilwoman Calvin is the only one pushing. I had a whole conversation with Councilman Alexander about this, and it just was like, he's like, oh, I'll talk to him in closed session. Nothing. So be aware, this has been ongoing. This has been happening behind our backs, but now publicly, now everybody knows, the council, everybody knows, here's his calendar, and the city attorney. Right? Like, and wait till you find out how much more money they want. This is crazy. This is a violation of the charter, by the way. The city manager may manage the city, absolutely, but the city manager does not have complete autonomy, nor is he a policymaker. He can't do anything without the direction of the council. The day-to-day organization of the city is already established per the charter. Any new additions, modifications, and that was a big thing in the last meeting, that all has to be redirected to our legislature, to our actual city council members. And that's not what's happening here. So, hi, Sarah. Thank you guys for joining. Hi, Ron. So I want this to understand that while the credit card hasn't come yet in the mail, just the fact that someone is out there trying to apply for a credit card without our knowledge is extremely concerning. So that's one thing. Then I want to talk about something else that I found that I is very interesting. So we all know that Susie Soren was the director of human resources. And in all of this, she was the one who helped bring Charles Montoya's resume forward. And in doing so, after his hiring, she was placed as the deputy city manager. Never worked for a city. until she came here. And her background was for working for Stater Brothers, went to the county, then she came here. What I discovered was interesting. She had been CC'd and assigned to Charles Montoya's calendar starting back in November and December. That she was attending meetings with the city manager that were not HR related. One being the meeting with John Valdivia in January. Why? Why would the city human resources director need to be on the city manager's meeting with Valdivia? Why would she be in his other meetings? And it's been reported, like he's had her with him since he was given the job she helped pass his resume through. And then in looking further, so January 18th, she's sitting in meetings with him. February 5th, he's interviewing for a deputy city manager position. At the same time, he's interviewing for a human resources director. There were 2 deputy city manager positions created without job descriptions, by the way, 0 qualifications. And only one was filled, and that's by Susie Soren. At the same time, at 11 a.m. on February 5th, he was interviewing for a human resources director. And later that evening, Susie Soren was being selected as a deputy city manager to a position that didn't exist. That's going to cost us $500,000 a year, and 2 of them at $1 million a year. This is the problem. And then what's even worse is finding out that the candidates are coming from the county. Those were her co-workers. She was literally helping her friends get jobs here. And the new hire for the new HR director is from the county of San Bernardino. The other person that they interviewed was from the county of San Bernardino. And look, there's a specialization. There's something special about city government that is very hard to translate from county to city. We talk a lot about this. Coming from a county to a city is a lot harder than going from a city to a county. And that's because cities kind of handle it all. And in human resources, they handle it all. They handle recruitment, selection, risk management, benefits, layoffs, everything. Everything is handled in one department. At the county level, there are tons of different divisions. You can be in benefits and you will never touch a recruitment. You can be in recruitment and selection, and you will never touch risk management, and they're just very separate entities. And so bringing someone in who was only a part of one faction of human resources makes it rough. And, if you ever talk to anybody in HR, it is rough. It is not easy for them because these people are being pulled in. And look, this is exactly what Rob Field did with Eddie Eveland. She came from Corona. It was her first time ever being a director. Super awesome. And then he made her the assistant city manager within 6 months. And then Damon Alexander tells us that he's worried about her mental health because she can't possibly take care of everything that her job requires. Here we are again. We're watching history repeat itself, and it's in real time. And I think what bothers me the most, what's hard, is just that the lack of integrity, watching this stuff happen. No fault to anybody for moving their way up the ladder. We get it, but my goodness, if our city will not create a job description to put someone in a deputy city manager job, knowing that if that person went to any other city, they wouldn't even get an interview, I think it causes a moment of pause of the level of qualification that we are putting a $218 million budget in front of. 223,000 residents in the hands of. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because the timeline doesn't add up. Just really doesn't add up. Okay, so this leads me into the meeting for Wednesday. Now, the regular meeting, as the city has posted it. Wait, let me check the comments. I'm sorry. You guys are right. Let's see. I just want to don't miss anybody. Rosanna asked, I don't understand how this is able to happen. Well, I'm going to tell you guys something. A lot of this is able to happen because the community doesn't show up. It is many times myself and a handful of regular attendees that come to the meetings that speak to the council and they don't care. They laugh. I mean, you guys all know you've watched Teddy and Juan and Fred and all that. They don't care what we have to say. More people have to show up. There is power in numbers. This stuff is being, as far as I can see, the city attorney is doing absolutely nothing to try and sway any of this stuff from happening. And as I've watched BB&K take the position, well, that's not really our job, and that's really not our position. Well, we're going to talk about that with the upcoming amount of liability that our city is facing. And the other part is they don't care. The council members don't care, with the exception of Kimberly Calvin, and I'll even give Ben Reynoso. The rest of them, you see anybody out here fighting? So they know not enough people are going to show up. And they know that after, even if we do say something, most people will walk away. And other people have just given up hope. They're like, hey, this is San Bernardino, this is what it is. So that's why. And then Laura, would it be considered embezzlement? Possibly, depending on where the money goes. We always have to make sure that there's a monetary trail that leads. So as this money starts becoming dispersed, this is why public records requests are so important and vital, as we'll see in the upcoming agenda review. Because if you're not tracking it, yes, absolutely. And this is one of the things that Montoya's previous job is fired him over, and has the attorney general investigating him, is taking money that wasn't his from that city. So absolutely, it can lead into it. So let me just keep going. Okay. All right. So this leads me into what's happening Wednesday. So we used to have a regular scheduled meeting the first and third Wednesdays of every month. It started at 7 p.m. or a closed session started at 5:30, open session started at 7. We knew that when Mayor Tran got in, she didn't like the times of the meetings, and it had been one of her agendas to move the meetings up. And she couldn't do that. She didn't have support for it yet. So what she would do was cut public comments to 30 seconds to a minute. Well, she gained enough support with her counterparts on the left, and it really is. There's a left and a right divide. So Theodore, Sandra, Juan, and Fred voted to change the meeting times. And they were going to begin at 5:30 with, I believe, closed session was supposed to start at 4 and then open session starting at 5:30, I believe. Well, this week, I'm sorry, since November till now, we have had special meetings every regular meeting session, which basically all they did was pop the consent calendar off the 7 o'clock meeting and move it to 5. And very, very important items were put into this consent calendar like a rubber stamp. Now, what's now happened that's people are seeing as very upsetting is, in a special meeting, you can only discuss, you can only come and give a public comment directly on the items that are listed on the agenda for closed session. You cannot bring up anything else. So for the people, and I'll give you an example, someone's like, hey, I have an event coming up. What time's the meeting coming? And I said, oh, the event's at 5. Or I'm sorry, the meeting's at 5. But just so you know, you cannot go to the meeting and just discuss your event, because there's no public comment off the agenda. So anybody that wants to call something out, anybody that wants to address an issue, street paving, no. Lighting, no, it's not on the agenda. And this is a tactic to shut down the community, in my opinion. If everything is going to start being put on a special meeting. You're going to stop the public from being able to express. They already shut down Zoom. So what I thought was very interesting, and Ms. Paula and Ron have brought this up a lot of times, is that, you know, since the Zoom bomb, the city did nothing to try and correct the fact that you can control the mute. They went and just got rid of it. And so now people, if you don't show up to the meeting or you don't have an ADA accommodation, your public comment is not heard. And for those of you that are submitting your public comments in writing, that doesn't get read publicly into the record. It gets submitted into the record. And the council may or may not actually read it, so you know. So this is why it's concerning. The meeting on Wednesday is now classified as a special meeting and not a regular meeting, because there's a lot going on. I mean, just alone, right? The public records request that we just received, if I wanted to go and speak on that and call it out, I can't. So stay aware of that. This is really important. Okay. So I want to cover what's going on in closed session first, and then we'll go to the regular agenda. So I did a timeline because I spoke on this at the last meeting, and this is very interesting. So if you guys remember Mr. Steve Kerrigan, he was the second pick for city manager. He was previously fired from the city of Merced for withholding important financial documents from the public and the elected officials. This came directly out of the newspaper up there. So apparently in November 28th of 2023, he filed a claim against the city, which I am requesting. So I hope to have that very soon. And for, you know, I assume not getting this job, which is interesting to me because I went down the timeline of events. I thought, like, what are you suing us for? Like, you pulled out of this job. So for those that don't remember, so on August 26th of 2023, so this was last year, Steve Kerrigan sends out an email. He's the city manager of the city of Salinas at the time. He sends out an email to his entire staff, making it public that he is a candidate for the city manager position in our city. Well, it's 2023. It's not, you know, 1823. Information travels very quickly, and we learn about it down here in San Bernardino. Well, the next day, there is a special council meeting, and the community members show up. I was there, and they were like, hey, like, this guy's announced that he's a finalist and he's been fired for withholding important financial documents from the public and his own elected officials. What are you guys doing? Why would you even consider somebody like that? Hold the laughter given who we ended up with. But it was like, so the community speaks, the meeting ends, and I mean, we never heard anything. It was, you know, most of us left the meeting and nothing was reported afterwards. Well, the next day, the community is informed, and I learn at the same time that the council members and the mayor, whoever, went out and they were bragging that they didn't care what the people said, that they were still in support of this guy. And, you know, as always, these elected officials can't keep their mouth shut and like to put their business out there. So that gets out. Well, the next day, the Monterey County Weekly posts a story about Kerrigan, confirming again that he had sent this email out and that he was still a candidate for our thing. So it only validated, again, what had transpired, but, you know, the council members went out the next day and bragged about that he was still a candidate. And I did my live. I think you guys remember I did my live on August 30th as well. Well, then September 28th, a whole almost like month later, Kerrigan withdraws his consideration from the city of San Bernardino. And he makes this big announcement. He's like, oh, I've thought about this and I love the city of Salinas and I really couldn't go anywhere else. And again, confirms that he was still like the guy that we were moving forward with, and validated everything that was out there. And then October 4th, at his own meeting in Salinas, the city of Salinas fired him. So my question is, what are you suing us for? Like, why are you coming after the money from the residents of the city of San Bernardino? You told everybody you were a candidate. And then you pulled yourself, or then you verified it with your own newspaper that same week. And then you withdrew your name, said you were in love with the city of Salinas and could never go. And then they fired you. What does that have to do with the city of San Bernardino? Guys, I don't know. I don't know. I just know that this is crazy to me. And this is why, the claims, and luckily the claims are public records. So I'll definitely make that public. But this is the type of things, and this is why I told the council at the last meeting, like, do not make this guy our financial burden. Why would we do that? Like, you have everything right here publicly to fight this man. So there you go. That's what's coming in closed session. It's ridiculous to me, but again, as we get into the regular agenda, you guys are going to see that we're a cash cow for litigation. Like, people get paid a lot of money when they sue us, and I think this guy is in the same moment of being an opportunist. Even though he told everybody he was a candidate and pulled himself out of the recruitment. I don't know. They tell on themselves and then they're mad everybody finds out. Craziness, craziness. So, okay, here we go. Let me get into the agenda if I can find it now. Hang on. Oh, no, I have to remember what I did with it. Nobody moves. Yeah, oh, let me go through the comments. I'm sorry. So while I'm looking for this, oh no, did I get rid of the, hang on. That's me live. Okay, so I need to make sure that I have, hang on, I'm trying to, okay. I'm opening up the meeting packet for us. Yeah, it's a lot, you guys. There's so much that happens on the regular, and this is what's so important. I know it feels like it can feel insignificant at times, like, who cares? But truly and honestly, it matters. This stuff at the end of the day, when you are paying for it as taxpayers, it really does affect you, because you're not going to get your lights turned on or your streets paved or your parks redone. So, okay. I'll wait for you guys to be able to see this. This is the agenda for this Wednesday. Okay, wonderful. So here we are. This is all for a special meeting, closed session, open session beginning at 5. So open session begins at 5 p.m., closed session to immediately follow. Okay. And it looks just like the regular meeting, by the way. It's like, this is again why, and it's so nonsense, so complete nonsense. That and I'm going to post something, you guys will see it, from the city attorney when I question, how do you allow these meetings to be reclassified as special meetings? And they're like, oh, other cities periodically use special meetings. Periodically does not mean every scheduled meeting. So Sonia, Carvalho, BB&K, like, this is why, as I always think back, this is why Bell went down the way Bell went down. Because they break the spirit of the law. And it's just awful. So, okay, here we go. There's a citizen of the month that Ben Reynoso is placing up, and that is going to be Cameron Grant. And then they're going to discuss the budget And we're gonna look at this real quick, because I think you guys need to see some important things. Okay, that's not gonna be that slide. Is this the budget? Yes, some fiscal year review stuff. Okay. What's interesting is there is some really good stuff. And here's the thing, at the same time that there are very disturbing things going on that we need to be aware of and constantly questioning, there's also some cool stuff happening. There is some needed things happening, but what tends to happen is you ever hear like, just focus on the positive, just don't always talk about the bad stuff. Well, if you just focus on the positive, this is why this stuff is allowed to happen, because we need to make sure we're talking about the whole discussion. So what's interesting is they're right now in the beginning of the budget, they're talking about the economy, they're talking about different trends and all of these things that are happening. Okay, I want you to see, and if you can't see this isn't the budget, you can pull it up. So something very important, Measure S. We have talked about the Measure S sales tax and how it is just a general fund allocation. There is no special line item. So when these monies are coming into us from the sales tax increase, they're not in a specific place where they just go into the general fund, which is why I adamantly opposed the Measure S tax as it was written. Now, you guys, we're looking at upwards of $51 million. We got $50.5 million from Measure S tax sales. That's huge. This is where our budget is being able to be thrusted into $218 million. Now, one other thing I want you guys to see that I have a big issue with, and it's not settling with me, is the cannabis tax. So you're telling me with the amount of cannabis being sold in our city, with all of this licensing, with all of the hoopla, with everything that our city went through, that we are only getting a $3 million projected revenue and actually are only getting a possible 2.8 million? You guys, it just doesn't seem accurate. And in the last time we saw this discussed, they were like, yeah, we're behind on collecting revenue. You're behind getting us our own money. This is crazy. There's no way that this 2.8 is the exact same amount that we were getting a year ago. There's no fluctuation at all. It's the same. I'm not buying it. So I wanted to point those two things out because, the more money we get, the less streets you can cut out of a CIP project. When we were looking at the licensing and permits, the city is behind in collecting and even updating their system records. We have to be very careful when we are assessing these budgets and writing these things. This is why right here, even in the cannabis revenue, when they're in this little blurb, they were like, city staff anticipates overall collections will nevertheless end the year under the adopted budget amount. Economic development and business registration staff are working with the companies that are late paying their expedite payment. So here we go. The city knows that these people have been underpaying for a year now, and you've done nothing to correct that. That's a big deal. That is a very, very big deal. So this graph right here is a breakdown in the millions of all of the revenue, all the taxes that we're receiving. So here again, 2.8 million in cannabis. Measure S projected at 51 million, came in at 50.5. Sales and use tax was projected at 58 million. We're coming in a little under. Utility tax was above 4 million, but this is important, okay? It's important because I want you guys to look. Let me get to hold on. Let me get ahead of myself. This is what happens. I read this and I'm just like, So what I want us to look at is some interesting facts here that I am worried about. Liability funding. So this is litigation. This is us paying out to people who sue us. So our liability fund was set at $9.2 million at the beginning of the fiscal year of July 1, 2023. Now we're coming about halfway. December 31st of 2023, we were halfway. Within that 6-month period, the city expended $7.7 million, 84% of the budget of the $9.2 million due to higher than anticipated settlement agreements. And they are asking for an additional $7 million. This is going to put our liability insurance up to $16 million a year. This year, not even a year, this fiscal year, $16 million for anticipated litigations, agreements, settlement agreements. What are we doing? What in the world are we doing? That's crazy. And so here's what really gets me. The city manager just requested 2 deputy city managers at a cost of $1 million a year to the taxpayers of the city. And it's just kind of comical. That didn't even show up in his budget. I didn't see it here. Am I missing it? Well, I didn't see a reallocation for Susie Soren's job. Like, where is this? City manager's recommendations. Let me check. Let's go back real quick for verification and see if we see any change to his budget. City manager. Adopted budget was 3 million. They amended it to 3,440,000. They've expended $1.3 million, so 40%. And think he's still going to be on track. Where is the amended cost for the deputy city attorneys or city managers? Where is that? Interesting. Interesting. Where is it being accounted for? And where are these people coming from? Like, where is this money coming from? So be aware of that. That's a lot. Where is, and maybe I missed it. I want you guys to see the city attorney's office is asking for money, and we'll get into that. So the city attorney's office is saying due to additional, here we go. The top line, legal services, outside legal service increase of an additional $1 million. So BB&K is requesting, because of the numerous amounts of litigation facing the city at and highly, I forget exactly how they label it, we'll find it later. They're basically hard cases to fight. It's going to cost us $1 million. My question is, you're budgeted at $4 million a year alone for BB&K services. What are you doing for $4 million? What in the world is BB&K doing for the city of San Bernardino for $4 million when all of this other stuff is going on and they do nothing? And then you want $1 million for additional outside litigation. Because maybe you're not stopping a single thing from happening here that could stop this potential litigation. Could that be an alternative to why we keep being sued? Additionally, we're still paying John Valdivia's court fees and lawyers. We paid over $350,000 for Sandra Ibarra's lawyers. Like, that alone between the two of them is over $1 million expended. I think this is why it's so important when we look at all of this stuff and we think, God, why don't we have any of the amenities that other cities have? This is where our money goes. If you can believe, in total, you guys, this is in just we got April, May, June, and July. For the next 4 months, they want to expend $8 million of taxpayer funds just for the purpose of litigation. Just for settlements, for being sued. No wonder Steve Kerrigan thinks that he can tell everybody he got a job, quit the job, and then still come after us. It's crazy. It's crazy. PD, some of you are asking about PD. So here's something cool. This is for me what I was excited about seeing. As you guys know, the police department, and it's been going on for years, really cool under Chief Goodman, has gone above and beyond to go and get a lot of their money through grant funding. And so they've been able to sustain their budget and additional costs that way. For years, when I did the hiring for the police department, prior to, a little bit prior to the, well, we were right in the midst of, I guess it wasn't even prior to, coming out a little bit after the bankruptcy filings, there was a good civilian force of technicians and code officers, like writing tickets and all that stuff. They helped alleviate any officers being inside of the police department, because you don't want a cop processing records. You want them being a cop out on the street. And so they're looking for an additional police records technician, which I think is great. They're getting refunded for their overtime budget. So right now their budget is 16 million, as you guys all know. I'm sorry, is it 60? Did I say 16 million? No, 116 million, my bad. Is 116 million. It's, as long as we know that it's being managed well, it's okay. It's just, we have to make sure that we always double check where our public safety budget is. And being able to see these breakdowns is way more of an ability to take a breath and know that we're being properly fiscal managed given the high amount. Because remember, anytime that public safety gets over 62% of your budget, that's what led us into bankruptcy the first time. So it's nice to see that there are expenditure costs that are being reimbursed to the city, and at the same time that we are moving to more civilian to take, that also helps cut PERS costs. So there's my little thing about that. The library is getting people. I love that. I don't think we can fund our libraries enough. I think the entire fiscal budget is like 3 million. Yeah, 3 million. It's one of the lowest. Park and Recreation is doing great things. We're going to see a grant from them. So there's a lot. There's a lot into this budget. There's a whole presentation that if you guys want to see, it's right here, the economic update. I won't go into all that because I kind of went on and on about it, but just look through it. It's important. Okay, let me go into the next thing, which is kind of interesting and cool. Here's a new announcement. So the city is being gifted the Harris building across the street. The old, what, Woolworths, as you guys would call it, or something, was it Woolworths or Harris or something? So now they're going to be taking that over, which I think is interesting. I'm trying to get back up to it. A part of what the downtown redevelopment will now look like, given that this building is up. We knew that the Stanleys were trying to build it, who own the Enterprise building, or were trying to buy it. It didn't work. I've been looking through this. I see that there looks like some past tax issues with the city, but it says El Cortez, a Spanish corporation, the sole owner, as also known as the Harris Building, has expressed a desire to donate the building to the city, and staff has completed the review of the preliminary title. And they see that there are no defects on the title that would adversely affect the donation. So it looks cool. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. This is going to be given to, well, let's talk about this. So this is going to be handed to the, oh my God, I'm having a blank. The Planning Commission. Sorry, there we go. It's going to be handed to the Planning Commission to be reviewed in alignment with the general plan. Here's the thing. You guys, we haven't solidified the general plan. We are still working on the downtown specific plan, but that's not right now. This Montoya guy has completely thrown out everything that we had agreed upon as a community to work for, and wants to create this weird non-quadrant thing of like lesser housing and less type of economic development. So when this comes, you guys got to go to the meetings. It's so important to be able to discuss with our commissions, like, hey, we'd like to see it become, I don't know, whatever it's possible to be, but with community input. So be aware of that. See, good news, some good news. This is all the backup material. There's a lot of it. You guys can go through it. I believe the next one, if I'm correct, is that Park and Recreation received a grant. Oh no, this is the payroll register, super fun stuff. So Park and Recreation is receiving, I believe, a $630,000 grant. Wait. Oh, I went too far. A grant from the Outdoor Equity Grants Program, which is exciting. This is 100% cost secured by the grant funding, so the city doesn't have to put anything out. And you know what? Like, what Liddy and her team do through Park and Recreation is just, it's amazing. And we are so lucky to have her and Vanessa and the whole team just continually fighting and bringing things to our city that are much needed. This helps boost the morale. Remember, one of the things that we conceded on was parks for the decade that we were in the bankruptcy. And so this is really awesome. I think so. Very cool. Let me check your comments while I'm scrolling. It's weird that the Harris Building gifted to the city. It tells me the owners see no future in San Bernardino. Quite possibly, they could not see a future. It looks maybe that they have begun to default on the taxes, if I'm reading that correctly, that they are, that there really is nothing. And look, like, great part when we are 3 years into an ENA, exclusive negotiating agreement with the developer to redo our entire downtown, I could see why they want to hold on to the building. But right now, when everything has been stopped, when everything that the community wanted is now dead, and this dude who has zero, again, we've looked, no history of any type of large scale economic development projects under his belt, says that he's going to be the master developer. Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. It seems like people are like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. So again, all of these things, a part of the larger conversation. And here's the crazy thing. These are all consent, by the way. Even though you and I and online are having a discussion about these items, there is no discussion at the meeting unless it's pulled. Unless someone on that dais has a question, this is all a rubber stamp. Can you imagine this level of information just being rubber stamped? That's the problem. That's the problem with Montoya's doing. That's the problem with anybody that's not questioning why we are just becoming a special meeting city. So be aware. Okay, let me get, well, I'm just scrolling away and talking. Let me get here. Okay, this is a big one for me. As you guys all know, the demolition of the Carousel Mall has been a highly contentious issue, given all the nonsense that went on. So here, the city is asking for a task order number 2 for Z&K Consultants for the Carousel Mall for professional services. Now, Z&K is an engineering firm, and what is being discussed here is that they want to be given an additional $201,000 out of a fund, this is interesting, right? So out of a surplus allocated fund of Measure Z money going for street sweepage, I'm sorry, for to allocate CIP street sweeping signage project surplus. First of all, what street sweeping signage project did we have all this extra money on? And where is the street sweeping signs? And where is the schedule for street sweeping? Where did that come from? Now, I know that Sandra and Councilwoman Calvin and I want to say Theodore Sanchez have all asked about street sweeping signage and this whole mechanism. Now we have these surplus funds on something that's never been done or existed in our city to go pay a consultant on the project. First red flag, big red flag. I should get like a red flag. Just think about that. Next, what I find even crazier is, so they're saying that this consultant, and we're gonna look into it, needs to be paid because the project was delayed. The demolition of the mall was supposed to be completed in December of last year due to the weather and rains. I'll give you that. Thank you, Paula. Due to the weather and the rains, there's had to be an extension. It's trying to be done at the end of the month. It was extended by 3 months. But they're saying that there was this random discovery of an unanticipated third floor mezzanine and various challenges related to the break-ins to the general construction area and flooding. First of all, how did you find an unanticipated third floor mezzanine? You were supposed to go through that whole project. You're telling me that you missed the entire third floor? Is that what we're doing here? And then they're saying that they had to do extra work, and this is going to be a real kicker, that based on the contractor's baseline schedule, the project was set to conclude. They had to extend it. The budget increase will cover the additional out-of-scope items for the project. What is out of scope? How did you miss a third floor mezzanine? How is that not within the scope of you're going to tell me that it said demolition everything, excluding a third floor mezzanine? I hope someone asks a question about that. That doesn't even make sense. And then it says that the sub-consultant, Converse Consultants, was added to the same original budget as the construction management and inspection contract without increasing our budget. The work of Converse was not budgeted in our original budget. Well, that's whose fault is that? Like, I'm sorry, but why is it the taxpayer's fault that you didn't budget correctly? And why, we were told this was only going to happen for $7 million. I've requested the change orders. I am requesting every dime that has gone into it. So we're being asked to fund an additional $200,000 because you didn't do your job, and then anticipate significant anticipated challenges. This just has significant challenges. These have required numerous meetings, analysis, and significant additional inspection time. Hey, buddy, it's the job. You want us to pay these people more money so that they can go to a meeting? And inspection time, they were supposed to do the whole inspection. I remember specifically Councilwoman Calvin asking, where are all your environmentals? We didn't need them. We're not going into the ground. We're not touching anything. We're going to crush and grind on site. What? What? And then here's fun, additional SWPPP inspection. The city requested additional inspection such as SWPPP to make sure we address the issues of dust control drainage. All right, you guys. Here's the thing. A year ago, and I'm going to post this for you. I asked the city. I said, I would like to receive a copy of what did I ask for? I requested a copy of the Storm Water Pollution Prevention Plan, the SWPPP, the best management practices, and the quality management plan for demolition of the Carousel Mall. That's what I asked for. That I specifically asked for the SWPPP. And this was May 23rd of 2023, coming up a year. And I got this message back from Susan Pam. Good afternoon. This message is in response to your public records request received by the city of San Bernardino on April 27th, 2023. So they, again, as you all know, they like to hold us off. So it took me a month to get this. Please see below response from the city's public works staff. The Carousel Mall demolition project does not require a water quality management plan. Our staff are currently reviewing the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, which includes best management practices. We aim to complete our review by the end of the week. The SWPPP plan will require revision and resubmittal. We will provide these records to you once they are complete. If you have any questions, please contact Susan Pam. I have never received any updated plans. And here you are a year later, telling me that they were working on this, they were including best practices, and now a part of this $201,000 is the SWPPP inspection that was not within the scope of work. You guys, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. It's literally in writing. And then we assumed 45% effort for 9 months to include pre-construction and project closeout activities. The senior project manager had to be more involved and expanded. They want us to pay more money because they underbid this entire project. They were $10 million less than the next competing bid. If you guys, I'm trying not to get upset, but here we are. Here we are. When Councilwoman Calvin asked, how is it that this bid was allowed to be that much under? And they said we were given extra information by Daniel Hernandez, allowing us to crush and grind on site. We were enabled to cut our costs. This is what you get because they were never allowed to do it. It was fully under what it would actually cost, and now they're asking for more money. And this is just one consultant. You haven't even seen the change orders and the amounts for the other ones. My goal, my hope would be that they say no. Like, hey, that's on you guys. This money shouldn't be coming from us. This money should be coming from environmental resources. They bid on the project. They went out of their way to say that they could do the demolition for what they said they could do the demolition for. It's all there in their bid. So go get $201,000 from the guy that got the 7 million and just stop trying to hit the taxpayers. So there you go. It's a lot. Super fun. Okay, I want to try and get out of here as soon as possible because we're coming up on an hour. But this is the contract, again, adding more money. That just isn't, I believe, our problem. For those of you that don't like Omnitrans, E Street, the whole SBX, there is right now a proposal. And again, I believe this should have been a discussion item given the area level of contention our community has with that whole stupid SBX look. They want to put a center median in between E Street, between 10th and Fairway Avenue. And look, we're talking about this community. Our community has talked about getting rid of that altogether. It is a completely ineffective mode of transportation, the way that it's built. Not that the bus going from point A to point B isn't important to the community, but the way that it's destroyed E Street. Why are we not reevaluating that? This should never be a rubber stamp give. This should be a part of, here's a moment in time for us as a community to now have our say about XBS. And no, we are not going to split costs on something that is tearing up the economy on E Street. So look into this, and if you can, I guess if you want to speak on it, it's important. It's a $2.3 million cost, so we would be we're going to split it, and I don't think it's worth the money. I don't personally. So let me look at some comments. Let's see. Mike, talking about the best practices. We always use someone else's best practices, and then instead of us doing it, it's a lot. Yeah, Mike, I totally agree with you. We're not being consistent in what we follow. What we know when we look at the RFPs that are going out, a lot of this is cut and paste, and really an issue. We're not doing what we need to be doing. We're not following our protocol that would make us successful. And I guess in this magnitude of development, demolition, exchange. I'm gonna go with you there on that one. So, let's see. Okay, let me get last part. I'm gonna have to cut this up for Instagram because we're at an hour. This is all of the specs. So okay, this is for an energy grant, so I'm not gonna go into that one. If you want to read on it, you can. Here we go, let me do this. This is all the budget allocations for that. Okay, so as you guys remember, there is 21 streets coming for pavement. This is a $7.9 million project, and well, coming up to $8.7 million. If I remember this correctly, this is the one where this was supposed to be 15 million. We had to cut money off of it because we couldn't afford it. This is why I want to go to this. This is why watching the city get ready to expend $8 million for litigation boggles my mind when we have streets that need to be fixed. And right now, this is what you're getting. So 13th Street from Waterman to Sierra Way, 16th Street, Sierra Way to Mountain View. This is Ward 2, Ward 1, Ward 7. I need my street on here. These are any of you that are in these wards, this is where they are, they're coming to pave, but streets were cut out of here. There we go. The project was first advertised for public bidding. 3 sealed bids were received and opened. The lowest apparent bidder submitted a bid for 14 million. The lowest bid was significantly above the budget allocated for the citywide pavement rehabilitation for 21 locations. Staff recommended the city reject all bids submitted for the subject project at the time. This is right. I do remember this. So we couldn't even afford bidding. We couldn't afford what it was actually going to cost. And now here we are. And I'm looking at some of these streets and I'm thinking, like, we need to do better. It can't just be a hodgepodge picking. Where is the metrics that tells us what we need to do and how we need to do it and how quickly we do? So just be aware of that. Paving's coming, but it's not aligned, I don't believe, where it should be. And I think that's the last one until, yeah. So let me check up here. I think that's the last big thing to talk about. So a lot of things moving, a lot of moving parts. But if you're going to come to the meeting, all you can talk about is what is on here. There is no other, yeah, that's it. There are no other discussions. And I know that sounds really disheartening for many of you because, you know, you want to be able to express, you want to be able to talk about code enforcement, you want to be able to talk about something that happens on your street or wherever, you know, that may be. So let me go back to where I was on my slide. This is why, at the end of the day, you got to remain vigilant. This is what we're here for. And I think you guys appreciate you for an hour of your time, and many of you, very cool for you to watch is share this, listen to it. It is a podcast kind of thing, so you can be listening to me while you're driving or doing whatever. Get the word out. This is the best way. This is why I've continued to fight for our community, you know, for the last 5 years. This is why I get so passionate because, you know, the money that we are throwing away, and just my opinion, this really, you guys, is my opinion based on the facts that I'm receiving from the city. It's harmful and it doesn't build for the future. It keeps us where we are to the extent that it allows us to backslide. And when there is a lot of money at hand, bankruptcy comes to mind with fiscal mismanagement and doing whatever. And so I want to give a big shout out. I just tell you, like, I appreciate you, Mike and Paula and Ron and Laura and Sarah and Leah and everybody that and Tim, all of you guys. And I don't want to miss anybody, so I can't name everybody, but I appreciate you to the utmost Dent, for all the effort that you put in. I am not the only one out here doing this. I hope everybody understands that while I may be, on here, there is such a good group of amazing residents of this city that are constantly fighting and emailing, but we have to do more and there have to be more of us. I remember when 10 of us came to a meeting and spoke, and they literally let Fred Charette and Theodore laughed it off. And like, yeah, it's only 10 people, we don't care. And so I have never understood why, if one person is telling the truth and telling you that you're violating the rules and regulations, you would need 10 more people to tell you that. But hey, it's the city that we live in, and as we are changing it slowly but surely, these are just the things we're gonna have to keep fighting. So thank you guys so much. I'm gonna post this, share it. I'll put it on to 2 segments on Instagram, and if you can make it Wednesday night, 5 o'clock, I hope you can. And if not, as soon as I get more information, I'll do more updates. So have a great night, you guys, and thank you for all that you do, San Bernardino.